The Baltimore Ravens faced a tough night on Sunday, and for fans watching, it was one of those games that leaves a bitter taste. A late collapse against the New England Patriots saw the Ravens blow a double-digit fourth-quarter lead, losing 28-24. And the questions surrounding decision-making across the board are impossible to ignore. There was a game plan, but in the moments that mattered most, it simply didn't make sense. The team had opportunities to control the clock, manage the field, and utilize their biggest offensive weapon, but instead, choices were made that left fans, analysts, and even former players scratching their heads. One thing that stood out in this game was Derrick Henry's absence on the field. During the most critical possessions, Henry had been unstoppable for the Patriots, racking up 128 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 18 carries. Averaging over 7 yards per carry, he was on fire, dominating the game. Yet when it was time to push back and reclaim the lead, he didn't see the field. Former players and analysts alike didn't hold back in their critiques. They questioned how a team could have such a clear advantage and then seemingly hand it away at the worst possible moment, even within the coaching staff. There seems to be a strict rotation plan that dictates when players get touches. But in a moment where momentum and performance are so obviously in one player's favor, it becomes nearly impossible to defend not riding the hot hand. It's a principle in sports that goes back decades. If your player is performing at an extraordinary level and can change the course of the game, you keep him in, yet, for reasons that remain unclear, the Ravens diverged from that philosophy. This decision has ignited a national conversation, and not just among die-hard Ravens fans. The game was broadcast on primetime television, and the optics of benching a player like Henry in those circumstances drew criticism from every corner. As the conversation developed, the focus shifted to the coaching staff and their accountability. John Harbaugh, with nearly 2 decades of experience leading the team, finds himself in the hot seat not for a lack of knowledge or talent, but for repeated lapses in critical decision-making. Fans and analysts alike have debated whether it falls on the head coach directly or the offensive coordinator. But the reality is that when the decisions on the field don't reflect the talent and opportunities available, it reflects on leadership as a whole. Even with the success Harbaugh has had in regular seasons and a Super Bowl victory in his resume, these moments expose underlying flaws that have persisted over the years. For many, this game represented a breaking point, a symbol of frustration that has been building over multiple seasons, as errors and questionable calls seem to reoccur without meaningful correction. Beyond coaching decisions, the Ravens' roster and construction of the team came under scrutiny. Veteran players who have carried the team for years are aging, and the defensive unit, once a hallmark of dominance, shows signs of slowing down. Key matchups that previously would have been handled effortlessly were exploited by opponents. The offensive line, in particular, has struggled to protect the quarterback and create space for running backs, contributing to Lamar Jackson's ongoing battles with injuries and limiting the team's ability to fully execute in critical moments, even with talented skill players like Mark Andrews, Adree Hopkins, and Zay Flowers. Inconsistencies and lapses in execution across the lineup leave the team vulnerable when facing disciplined, strategic opponents. Former athletes have voiced that the team might be overdue for a new voice, a fresh perspective to re-energize the locker room and guide the team toward a more cohesive identity. The concern is not solely with John Harbaugh himself, though his long tenure and influence over game management decisions place him at the center of criticism. There are layers to the problem: aging players, insufficient pass rush, gaps in defensive depth, and offensive decisions that fail to capitalize on the roster's strengths. The conversation isn't just about one game or one play. It's about the accumulation of patterns over multiple seasons that signal a need for strategic reassessment. The Ravens have a talented quarterback in Lamar Jackson, and even with limitations, he represents a chance to compete at the highest level. Yet, the structure around him, the line, the supporting cast, and the play calling must align perfectly, and when it doesn't, even elite talent struggles to carry the team to victories. The narrative surrounding the Ravens now is one of urgency. Fans are realizing that playoff dreams are slipping further out of reach, not necessarily due to lack of effort or talent, but due to decisions that undermine the potential of the players on the field. Even if the team were to make the postseason, the road would be treacherous, and realistically, they might not have the composition to advance far. The game against the Patriots was a microcosm of broader issues: leadership choices, roster construction, and the inability to fully leverage star talent during crucial moments. Observers, both local and national, are now questioning whether the franchise can continue on this trajectory without a shift in leadership or philosophy. This isn't about panic. It's about recognizing structural problems that have been quietly festering and are now impossible to ignore under the glaring lights of a nationally televised defeat. It's not just the physical execution on the field that's under scrutiny, it's the decision-making, the timing, and the communication. From rotating key players off the field during critical drives to mismanaging timeouts and failing to adapt to the game's flow, these choices highlight an inconsistency that has plagued the team. For too long, fans are frustrated because they know the talent exists. They've seen Derrick Henry dominate opponents, watch Lamar Jackson orchestrate impressive drives, and witness defensive standouts like Marlon Humphrey perform at elite levels. Yet, the outcomes aren't aligning with the potential, and when the postseason is on the line, small missteps translate into missed opportunities, lost momentum, and questions about whether the franchise is willing to make the bold decisions necessary to compete at the highest level. As the discussion continues, there's a growing sense that the Ravens are at a crossroads. Veteran leadership, coaching philosophies, and the structure of the roster are all being dissected and debated. Analysts point to the fact that the team needs more than just incremental tweaks. They may require significant changes to restore competitiveness and maximize the potential of their star players. Even with an elite quarterback and explosive skill positions, the team cannot rely solely on individual talent to win games against disciplined, strategic opponents. For fans, it's a challenging reality watching moments slip away not because of lack of effort, but because of decisions that undermine the team's own strengths. Moving forward from that frustrating collapse against the Patriots, the questions surrounding the Ravens season only grow louder. There's a sense of urgency that's hard to ignore, not just in Baltimore but nationally. As analysts and former players weigh in on the state of the team, the discussion isn't simply about a single loss. It's about patterns that have emerged over multiple seasons, about moments where opportunities were squandered and decisions left fans wondering if the leadership on the sidelines fully understands the talent at its disposal. Derrick Henry's absence during critical drives was the headline, but it is emblematic of larger issues that encompass roster management, coaching philosophies, and the ability to adapt in high-pressure situations. The inability to ride momentum and trust players performing at an elite level has become a recurring theme, and it has now reached a breaking point where fans and pundits alike are openly questioning the direction of the franchise. Shannon Sharpe's comments about the need for a new voice resonated widely because they encapsulate what many feel in the wake of consecutive disappointments. While the critique may be aimed implicitly at John Harbaugh, it also highlights the importance of leadership and communication within the locker room. Teams can have superstar talent, but if the guidance and strategy don't align, even the most gifted athletes can't perform to their potential. The Ravens have a unique combination of skills, with Lamar Jackson's versatility, Derrick Henry's power running, and an assortment of receivers capable of explosive plays. Yet, the current structure fails to fully leverage these assets in moments that define games. Whether it's closing out a fourth-quarter lead or executing in critical red zone situations, when a team consistently struggles to translate talent into wins, the conversation inevitably shifts toward restructuring, reassessing leadership, and potentially redefining the team's identity. The offensive struggles are particularly glaring. Beyond the rotation controversy with Derrick Henry, the Ravens' offensive line has shown vulnerabilities that compromise both the running game and Jackson's ability to operate effectively. Interior line weaknesses, combined with inconsistent performances from skilled players, mean that the quarterback is often forced into difficult situations, and the offense fails to maintain the rhythm necessary to sustain drives. The chemistry between play caller and quarterback is vital, and when the game plan deviates from capitalizing on high-performing players, it creates confusion and frustration on the field. Veteran observers have noted that this isn't a reflection of a lack of talent, it's about game management, situational awareness, and the ability to make real-time adjustments that protect leads and exploit opponents' weaknesses. In many ways, the Ravens' current issues are a lesson in how even elite athleticism can be hamstrung by strategic missteps. The defensive side of the ball, once a defining characteristic of the Ravens' identity, has also raised concerns. Players who were once dominant now show signs of wear and diminished performance. Key matchups that could have been neutralized are instead exploited by opposing offenses. And a lack of consistent pass rush allows quarterbacks extra time to make plays. Marlon Humphrey, who has been a cornerstone of the secondary, isn't as dominant as he once was. And opposing offenses are increasingly able to exploit mismatches. The cumulative effect is that games that should be controlled become unpredictable, leaving the Ravens vulnerable to late-game comebacks and exposing the team to national scrutiny. Fans are watching, and the narrative is clear. Talent alone isn't enough to overcome systemic flaws in strategy and execution. Adding to the pressure is the looming reality of the team's roster and impending decisions in the offseason. Many key players are approaching the latter stages of their contracts, and the front office faces difficult choices about who to retain, who to release, and how to restructure in a way that creates a sustainable path to competitiveness. Free agency and draft strategy will be pivotal, especially on the offensive and defensive lines where depth has been a persistent issue. The Ravens need not only talented starters, but also reliable rotation players who can step in seamlessly when injuries or fatigue come into play. This necessity is compounded by the team's reliance on a few key stars, whose performances often dictate the outcome of games. Without careful roster management and a willingness to make bold moves, even the most talented roster can falter under the pressure of a long NFL season. The leadership debate remains central to the discussion. While John Harbaugh's tenure has brought both stability and playoff appearances, there is a growing conversation about whether a fresh perspective could invigorate the team. Leadership in the NFL isn't solely about experience or past victories, it's about vision, adaptability, and the ability to inspire peak performance from every player on the roster. The concern among analysts is that the current system has reached a plateau, where incremental adjustments are no longer sufficient to address the structural challenges that have become apparent over recent seasons. The balance between maintaining consistency and embracing necessary change is delicate, and how the Ravens navigate that balance will define the next phase of the franchise's trajectory. For fans, the emotional toll is undeniable. The highs of watching Lamar Jackson execute dazzling plays and Derrick Henry dominate are tempered by frustration at moments when decisions undermine potential victories. The sense of what could have been the leads lost, the drives mismanaged, and the opportunities missed adds weight to each defeat. The narrative of untapped potential resonates because it reflects a broader story of promise, interrupted by inconsistent execution. National commentary has amplified these concerns, framing the Ravens' struggles not just as local disappointment, but as a cautionary tale in professional sports about the consequences of misaligned strategy and leadership. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens have reportedly secured wide receiver Justin Jefferson, a signing that could redefine the league's offensive landscape. Known for his incredible route running, explosive speed, and uncanny ability to make defenders look foolish, Jefferson is widely regarded as one of the premier talents of his generation. Pairing him with quarterback Lamar Jackson, whose dynamic playmaking has already left defenses scrambling for answers, could make the Ravens an offensive juggernaut unlike anything seen before. Sources close to the team suggest that Baltimore's front office has been quietly working behind the scenes for months, analyzing Jefferson's fit within their system. The idea of Jefferson lining up alongside Jackson is being hailed internally as a perfect storm of athleticism and creativity. While many had assumed the Ravens would focus on bolstering their offensive line or reinforcing their defense, this reported acquisition signals a bold shift in strategy, prioritizing explosive scoring potential over incremental adjustments. Analysts are already speculating on how opposing defenses might respond. Jefferson's ability to stretch the field vertically demands attention from multiple defensive backs, potentially opening up lanes for Jackson to exploit with his signature mobility. Some insiders are even suggesting that this pairing could spark a new era of Ravens football, where the team becomes less about power running schemes and more about speed, agility, and high-octane aerial assaults. Fans are buzzing on social media, with hashtags and fan art proliferating, imagining Jefferson in the iconic purple and black. Rumors also hint at a contract structure to incentivize peak performance, underscoring the franchise's commitment to making this union a centerpiece of their championship aspiration. While nothing has been officially confirmed, The mere suggestion of Jefferson joining forces with Jackson has reignited debates across NFL circles. Could this be the move that finally propels Baltimore into the conversation as the league's most feared offense, even among skeptics? The speculation is impossible to ignore. The Ravens, long admired for their shrewd drafting and strategic ingenuity, appear to be taking an audacious leap, signaling to the rest of the league that they are willing to gamble big for elite talent. If the rumors hold true, NFL defenses may be in for a season of nightmares, as one of the league's most electrifying quarterbacks now has a receiver capable of turning any snap into a highlight reel moment. The NFL world waits with bated breath, knowing that if Jefferson does indeed suit up in Baltimore, the ripple effects will be felt from coast to coast. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.